Coaching in Session,
your exclusive destination for unparalleled personal and professional growth.
With your host, Michael Rearden.
Whether you choose to live within limits or break free, your mindset journey begins here.
I might have talked about this on the podcast before, but it's always a nice thing to do a refresher for whatever we have done, and then also to include new mindsets that can come into play. This idea of seasons is going to be what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm not talking about simply the seasons of what the world and what Mother Nature is going to give us, whether it be the spring, the summer, the winter, you want to do it in order. This is more about what life is. Now, life can be many things, right? Life can be joyous. It could be happy. It could be distasteful. It could be problematic. When we're looking at our season, where are we today? Where are you right now? And I want you to do the work. I want you to figure out, where are you in your season of life? Now, there's different seasons for different people, and I have a list of seasons here where it could be a new beginning, whether it be career, relationship, a business venture, whatever, right? We think of growth, we think of flourishing, and that can be many different things, right? It could be a glow up. Maybe you're losing weight and you're starting to feel better, right? People think about summer, they think about bikinis and like, oh, I'm going to get my summer body ready, right? So there's a good shift happening there. Then we think about the transition of letting go of things that no longer serve us, whether they be, again, careers, people. There's so many toxic people in our life today. And I hope you do a good job at relinquishing those people. And these toxic people, you might have gotten used to them. They could be your parents. They could be your best friends. And you stay with them and you stick with what that is because it's familiar. But maybe at some point you shifted or you transitioned. And I think of like rappers, and they talk about this a lot. Like I know Snoop Dogg said something like this. I'm sure Ice-T probably said something like this. And I know Lil Wayne had said something like this. It's like you have to keep on moving, right? And some people, they're going to stay at their level and you're going to be leveling up. It's not your responsibility to make sure that they come with you. Now, I use some rappers as a reference because there's also rappers who say, they were in the hood with me. They grew up with me. I'm going to bring them with me. We think of maybe NBA players who have bought their families homes and all of these different things. And now they're living on the streets. They're broke. They have nothing. So where is the discrepancy, right? Are we supposed to be helping the people that have been with us, or are we not supposed to be helping the people that have been with us? This is a personal preference because I remember I was working with a CEO early. I started the business 2018. It was probably around that time, 2018, 2019. And he would look at the people in his life and he would say, okay, these are the people that I'm going to bring with me, as we progress and as we make more money, right? And the business grew. So he took a, $1,000 business and made it $1 million worth of business, right? One of the things he said to me is like, it's important that the people that have been with you on the glow up or on the progression, it's important that you bring them with you. And I started to think, I was like, yeah, that's true. But there's also the caveat or the factor of, what if they don't want to be there with you? Now, this is going to open up a can of worms because you might ask, well, why would someone not want to be happy and prosperous and live in nice homes and drive nice cars, right? All of these things are common sense. But when it comes to a person, right, I talked about this early 2018, 2019 of the business, where people can be either anchors in your life or they could be toxic embers in your life. And the embers are literally, this idea that they can burn your house down, but they can also give you warmth. So there's multiple factors that we have to be looking at when it comes to other people and their seasons in our life. And that's a bit more complicated. So what I would recommend is that we don't necessarily go down that path today. But if you do need to look at the people that you have in your life, I recommend head over to revenconcepts.com. Get yourself a consultation. I'm sure we can do it in the free 30-minute session. You don't have to get coaching. It's important that you understand what season you are in as well as other people are in. And then maybe just asking some clarifying questions. Should you be that person that brings people along and maybe is going to put all the weight of their troubles and trials onto your plate? This is not for everyone, but it could be for you. So I'm not going to simply say that this is what we need to be focusing on today. What I will love to focus on today is the season that you're in, right? And I want you right now, if you're driving, you can't do it, but I want you just to think about it then. I want you to think about what season of life you're in right now. This season is basically your starting point, the foundation for what is going to come next in the next couple of weeks. Let's say the next 4 weeks, right? The next 1 month. You're going to be intentional about looking at these seasons, and you're going to be intentional about changing and transitioning the seasons when the 4-month mark has come. Now, I understand things might take longer than 4 weeks to happen. Maybe you are starting a family, right? It takes longer than 4 weeks to maybe get a wife and to have children. Maybe you are looking for a job and you're looking for the right fit. It's going to take longer than 4 weeks. I understand that. But we are still understanding what season we're in. Now, I do have a PDF that I'm going to be sharing with anyone who wants it. Just email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. The email is right down below in the description box below. You can put in the title or the subject box, put seasons. And I'm going to send you the seasons PDF absolutely free. You're not going to get anything else. You're just going to get this one PDF. You might not even get any hi or hello from me. You're just going to get this. And this is what I want you to have because it gives you some good examples of what the seasons of life that you possibly can be in. Now, this is for the people who can't figure out what season of life they're in, because maybe you are so confused about where you are in life, you can't even pinpoint what season of life you are in. Now, very similar to the TUS series, right, where you have to have a good, strong mindset in order to take what I am saying, some of the blogs too, and incorporate that into your life. Because some people are just so overwhelmed by everything that they have to do, the work that they have to do, that they would rather not do it than to do it. Very similar to what happens for New Year's resolutions, all of these things, it happens in the same factor, right? It becomes overwhelming. It becomes overbearing. And it is easier to kind of shut ourselves away in our homes during the winter and just wait for the spring and the summer to come where things are moving again. And for us to be more optimistic. They don't call it cabin fever for nothing. And that could be life too, where people are sick of their life. They're sick of the season that they're currently in. We can change that, but we have to be intentional. So when we're looking at the different seasons, I have them all listed, right? We can have the new beginnings, the growth, and we're flourishing. We can have transitioning seasons, right? Stillness seasons, chaotic seasons, challenging seasons, and then seasons where we have that epiphany, the revelation of what we're supposed to be doing, right? And there's no say in what season is right or wrong for you because your season is your season. Just because I'm in summer and you're in winter, it doesn't mean that I'm living life better and you're living life wrong. We can always start to compare ourselves and saying, oh, look at me. I got my nice homes and my nice cars. And sure, right? That's a nice flex and it's a nice floss. But at the end of the day, right? Can you say that you're in a season of love? Can you say that you're in a season of abundance? Can you say you're in a season of gratitude, right? All of these things bring about fulfillment in life. But yet, many people, they look at just the seasons on the outside, right? Summer's hot. I can't tell you how many people come to Texas and they're like, oh my God, Texas is so hot. Like, Texas is hot. I don't know if you know, but Texas is hot. Well, this was a common thing when I was moving from Connecticut to Texas. Everyone would say, oh, Texas is so hot. It's like you can't be outside. And rightfully so, right? Maybe sometimes in June, maybe in July and August, the hotter months, and it starts to cool down in September. So right now we are in a transitioning at the time of this podcast release, where the seasons are becoming more comfortable, where now people who might have been inside are going outside a little bit more. They're going to explore. They're going to do more hiking or whatever it be. But we have to look at, where were they the seasons before that? Were they building still, or were they waiting for those cool months? And you have to ask yourself, do you wait for seasons in your life, for opportunities to come, or do you create them? Do you create the change? I had a buddy of mine. He is well affiliated with many people in the world, powerful people. This is something new to me, where they do something with the clouds and they're able to use a machine or some type of technology where they can make it rain. And this is not like a rain dance where you're dancing and things along those lines. It's a technology where they put something into the atmosphere and it causes rain. Now, this is, playing Mother Nature, but it's still interesting to say the least. In Texas, we don't get a lot of rain. In Connecticut, there's quite a bit of rain. The soil is very different. In Texas, we have clay and limestone, and it can be difficult to build or to grow if you're trying to do things without much machinery. But in Connecticut, you can have basements, you can have a garden right in your backyard. You don't have to build a garden bed or anything. It's very different. But then I think about this idea of how we can change our elements. We can change, if it's sunny, we can make it cloudy. If it's cloudy, we can make it sunny. If it's a drought, we can make it rain. This is all to say that in our life, we have a similar power. We can do the same thing. Our seasons don't have to be, well, we have to wait 3 months for summer. We have to wait 4 months for spring. We have to wait 3 to 4 months for winter to be over. This is not to say that we have to follow with the guidelines that we were given. Our limits can sometimes be a distraction. We have grown up with this idea of seasons in life, right? When you're young, you will look at the seasons, right? There's summer, there's spring, there's winter, there's fall. And you might do a, calendar every single day where you're just kind of going through the days and the motions. You're saying it's Monday, it is this type of weather outside. And this is all, morning routine for children. But at some point, it becomes a limit. Because now we're looking at summer for possible growth, right? Spring brings flowers. And when we look at the winter, we see dead trees. And then we look at the fall and we see all the leaves changing colors. And we can find beauty in everything, right? Maybe we find beauty in the snow. Maybe we find beauty in all the leaves and all the colors. Maybe in the summer, we find beauty in the sun and people going out and swimming. And maybe in the spring, we find beauty in the flowers and the birds flying and chirping. We can find beauty at any season in our life. But some seasons make it very difficult, right? Especially seasons where things are challenging. And I believe that this should be one of our main focuses today, because when we are trying to move in life, the challenging moments or the challenging seasons are often the hardest to get through. When things are going good and you're happy and money's flowing in, time is flying by. It's like you're on vacation. Before you know it, you're back home. You're like, where did the time go? Well, challenges can truly make it so you pay attention to every second. And as much as I will love that to be kind of reversed, where challenges you're not necessarily so focused on, you just kind of move through them because you can, versus the good moments where you're fully intentional and you are like savoring every moment. Like, that's really good. Well, the chaotic seasons of life can happen with or without your consent, right? I don't think there's many people who say, you know what? Today I'm going to go into the crazy season. Today I'm going to go into the challenging season. Today I'm going to go into the season where I don't think I'm going to make it through, right? People don't necessarily give themselves this mindset of, I'm going into this hard season and I want to be here, right? They fall into it, right? It comes their way, a storm, a tornado comes and knocks over their home. They didn't say, hey, I hope my home gets hit by a tornado today. That's nonsense thinking. But yet in our life, we have all of these tornadoes that hit us. We have all of these trials and challenges that are going to inhibit our growth. And it's the same concept. It's the same mindset, where we have something and it changes our season. It changes our trajectory. It changes who we are and how we think right now. Well, this can be finance, right? We talked about it. briefly. It could be about relationships, divorce. It could be about emergencies, whether it be yourself or a loved one, conflicts with family members, things along those lines, or finding things about others that you might have never knew or thought about before. And then all of this is going to lead to a feeling of being unstable because what was once a steady foundation is now rubble. It's now sand. This is difficult for the mind to fathom because now you have to build a new foundation, right? And most homes, they have one foundation. This is the foundation of the home. There's one home I saw. It was like in, I don't know, like Utah or something. It was some mountain region, maybe Colorado, where they had different foundations for different sections of their home because the home was built like on a mountain. So they had an option to say, you know what? I'm just going to build different foundations and put different sections of home, and I'm going to connect all of them. Or I'm going to knock this mountain out, get a nice smooth ground, and I'm going to just lay out my foundation. There's multiple ways to live life, right? You could live a life of multiple foundations, but most people, they just kind of go with the status quo and they have one foundation, right? So typically that foundation could be maybe you have a steady career, steady job, and maybe you have one family, things along those lines. You have a family car, all of these things, right? Are your foundation for everything to go good in your day. Well, if you got a flat tire, if your car is out of commission, can you go to work? If your job or your company goes under, can you provide for your family still? So all of these things can ruin your foundation just at the inception of something bad happening to any one of these areas. Now, there's not much to say, like if something is lost in your life that you can just say, I lost it. And then, it doesn't have an impact to the foundation. There's something missing, right? There's a piece of the puzzle that's no longer there. Now, there's going to be things that are more important, and there's going to be things that are going to be less important. When you are going into summer, it's probably not important to have a shovel anymore. But when you're in winter, it's probably important to have a shovel just in case you get snowed in. A rake for the leaves in the winter, maybe for spring, you might need certain tools and resources that you might not need in other seasons, right? Like think of a garden hose in spring versus a garden hose in winter. Unless you want to make an ice rink in your driveway or your backyard, you probably don't need a hose in the winter. Unless you have a dog, maybe you're cleaning the dog outside, but then that's borderline animal cruelty, especially if it's like below freezing. You're going to bring in your dog as an ice block rather than a dog. So, this is all to say that we can, use different things for different seasons and everything has a purpose. Well, when we have identified that season that you're in, right? I want you to do the work now to identify the seasons where you would like to be in. And of course, we can put ourselves in the seasons of growth, the seasons of love, the seasons of change, seasons of prosperity and flourishing, seasons of maybe just new beginnings, right? Where we try something new. All of these things are great mindsets to have. But how many people, they give themselves this idea, this motivation of, I'm going to start a new season today, or I'm going to start a new season tomorrow, but they don't follow through with it. Because right now you might be in a season where you're not completely, fully satisfied in. And if you are fully satisfied in, with your season, I still encourage you to do the work to figure out what season is coming next. What season could help embellish your current season? I think of maybe spring to summer. Spring is a season where everything is growing and the weather is beautiful. And then all of a sudden it gets a little bit warmer, but it's still going out weather. I can still go out and I can still have a good time. I think of, what I was saying early on when, people were bad mouthing Texas weather. They were like, Texas is so hot. And I understand Texas can be warm. But we also have our cold seasons, right? Think of the Texas freeze where everyone froze to death over here in Texas. People didn't know how to deal with the ice. We didn't have the infrastructure here. Well, I remember my brother, he had came down to Texas during Christmas at one point early on when I first moved here. And he thought Texas was hot. He thought it was the Caribbean islands. And he just kind of brought some t-shirts and he was like, yeah, I'm here in Texas. It's going to be hot. Well, sure enough, it was 35 when he landed. And he was like, it's freezing here. And I go, what do you think? You think Texas is hot all the time? No, we get cold. And that can be life, right? Where if you're not prepared for what could possibly come or things that you might not anticipate because you have given yourself this idea of one place is hot, one place is cold. I could say that Connecticut is cold, but then again, Connecticut has 4 seasons. We all, in a sense, have seasons where there's going to be a fluctuation. I understand there's places like San Diego where it's always kind of, moderate temperature. Maybe some days are going to be a bit more humid than others. But the idea is year round, you're going to have decent weather. This is all to say that in life, you get to choose where you live. You might not get to choose your seasons at all the time or at any given point. I think of the hard moments, right? The hard seasons. There's not many people, as I said, are going to want and wish these things on their life. But yet there's many people today that are listening to this episode that are going through these hard seasons of life. And they're trying to figure out, well, I'm in this season of chaos. I'm in this season of financial strain. I'm in this season of, divorce or whatever it be. And they're looking at all of these things, right? But they're not giving themselves an out. They're not giving themselves the next step, right? So we have to just look at what season we're in and we have to look at what season we want to be in. And I already said it, but now this is the direction, right? Write down the seasons that you want to be in. And maybe if you are in the season that you want to be in, write down the season that you want to continue with. So you just repeat the process. Maybe you add, a bit of, accoutrements to it and, some embellishments and you say, okay, I'm going to, make this better by doing this, right? Anyone or everyone probably has this idea of, a little bit more possibly couldn't hurt. Maybe a little bit more money, a little bit more love, a little bit more time. These things are great things to, give yourself an attention toward. Of course, you can do the work to say, you know what? I'm satisfied with my money. I'm satisfied with my time on earth. I'm satisfied with the people that I'm with, right? We can be satisfied. And I have this wonderful quote, and basically it goes, crumbs are not for everybody. And I think of, certain seasons are not for everyone. It's the same mindset because some people will say, I'm in my struggle season. Oh, well, I'm in my broke season. Oh, well, I'm waiting for my taxes. I'm in this season where I'm hoping something good will come my way, right? Season of waiting, season of struggle, right? The season of hopeful thinking, right? Hope is a great thing to have. And we've talked about this in the podcast, but hope is not the end all be all. It could be the inception. It could be maybe even the spark, but you have to have something grander for yourself and for the plans that you want to fulfill and, step toward. What I will recommend for anyone who might be listening to this and they're trying to figure out, well, my life is not exactly how I would like it to be. And maybe you don't have money for coaching. Of course, you can keep on listening to Coaching in Session. But I understand that Coaching in Session is a podcast with different variables for many different aspects of life. Some variables are not going to be appropriate for you at this given time. For example, maybe you want nothing to do with family, and I'm talking about how you can raise resilient children, right? A wonderful podcast episode for a parent, but maybe not for you today. And so Coaching in Session is built for you to figure out where you need to go. It's a roadmap. It's a guideline. And you can just figure out what episode you need to listen to. Very similar to what book you need to read. And of course, if you need help reading or finding some books to read, email me, coachinginsession@gmail.com. Let me know what you're in the mood for, what you're struggling with, where you're looking for growth. Again, this is all about season. This is all about change. This is not about me. I'm going to try to rope you in and I'm going to, email you all the time. You ask any of the people on my email list how many emails they get. It is very few, maybe one every 3 months or something like that, right? When something big happens, maybe even once every 6 months, because I like to do for the group episodes because we have a great turnout for those. The idea is if you want personal development, this is a season. If you want change, that is a season. If you want to remain who you are and the same, that is a season. And you just have to give yourself this idea that seasons can change and so can you. Not everyone will change. Some people are going to stay exactly where they are. Now, it is not your responsibility to change these individuals. Very similar to how I brought up in the beginning of the podcast, the beginning of the show, how, some people you can bring with you and some people you can't. Because some people just want to remain the same. Some people don't want to do the work. If you are a person that wants to do the work, you should surround yourself with people who want to do the work. Because then you're going to find your seasons so much more practical. You're going to be doing things that you have never thought you could do before. If I see my neighbor mowing the lawn, it's like, I guess I have to mow my lawn too. And it's not keeping up with the Joneses. It's about, I guess the grass is getting a bit too high. Let's trim it down so we can see where we're going. There's no reason to blindly walk through life. We can have a plan. We can see the roots of what we need to be working on rather than just the tops of the trees. Let's get down and let's get dirty. Let's begin the work, the purposeful work, the spiritual work. Life is going to have ups and downs. There's going to be fluctuations and changes. One day you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to see a youthful smile, a youthful soul. Maybe one day you stop paying attention. And then eventually when you do look back in that mirror, things have changed. Your life can change. And so when we're looking at these seasons, they're not permanent. They're temporary. When we're looking at what comes next, it can be exactly what we envision, maybe even better. But if you're a person that is just kind of moving through life and not paying attention to the seasons, you can't be upset when the ride is over and say, where did it all go? Every day, every moment is an opportunity for you to pay attention. Every chance is one for you to make some change. So the change begins here. Change can begin now, where you can create more meaning, more purpose, figuring out what you need to do. That can be your season.